Okay, so here's the presentation. I hope you can now all see my screen. Let me know right away if there's a problem and you are not able to see it, so then I can fix the situation for you. So the content of the webinar today is such that we start with this most urgent issue, and that is the coronavirus situation and its effects on transnational access. Then we move further, and we are going to talk about the practical matters related to transnational access visit. We will talk about the actions that you need to do before you make the access visit to the station. Then we will talk about the actions that you need to do and what we are doing here in the TA coordination and at the stations during your access visit, and then the actions after you have completed your transnational access. And then in the end, we will go through the different activities that we have in our TA user community, where you are part of now. And then we have the session for questions and answers. So this slide basically presents in a nutshell the action plan we have at the moment regarding the coronavirus and its effects on transnational access that have been granted to you. So what we have done now last week is that we have sought extension from the European Commission to Interact 2. That is our current funding period that is supposed to end in the end of September. And we are now waiting for the decision from our science officer from the European Commission. And we know that it will take 3 more weeks to get the answer. So while we are waiting, we also ask you to either wait with the travel reservations, or if you absolutely want to proceed with your travel arrangements, make sure that you are booking refundable and exchangeable flight tickets. And also, we would like to ask you to think of if there are any possibilities that your transnational access, the physical transnational access requiring visit to the research station, could be shifted to remote access. Because in that case, there is a possibility that your study could be done already in summer 2020. This is something important to think about. And if you see any potential for your project taking place in remote access instead of transnational access, then please contact the station and CC the message to me. Now I can hear that someone has their microphone open. Please mute your microphone as soon as possible because it is disturbing the audio. Thank you. Then we look at the different options we have regarding the extension of Interact 2 funding. If the extension is granted within the next 3 weeks or a little bit later, then we have the opportunity that the physical transnational access can be postponed when needed to 2021. So that is an alternative we have in that situation. Then the second option is that we are not granted extension to Interact 2. So if this scenario comes into reality, then what we are planning to do is that the projects, your project that has been granted access, transnational access from Interact 2, we will transfer those projects under Interact 3. That is our new funding period that's just started in the beginning of this year, and that will continue until end of 2023. So that is the action plan in case extension is not granted to Interact 2. And in that case as well, the physical access can be postponed to 2021 if needed. Then the lowest box on this slide is what we foresee to take place or happen in spring and summer 2020. So we anticipate and we hope that some transnational access could be shifted to remote access and already conducted in summer 2020. And this can be done by agreement between the research station and you. So if you think there is potential that your study could actually be done as a remote access process instead of physical transnational access, please contact the station and kind of throw the idea to them, and then you can discuss about it and think whether it could be possible or not. Then, of course, what we foresee for summer 2020 is that some physical access, transnational access, has to be postponed to 2021. And in that case, either of those cases presented above will apply. And then, of course, the last point is something that I really want to encourage you to think about and perhaps even start checking about and start working on, is that you could utilize and use virtual access. Because we are offering virtual access in Interact, and it means that the stations have made data and metadata from their station available. And it is free to use for everyone, and it is available on our Interact website on our virtual access single entry point. And there is currently 18 partners in Interact that are offering this kind of virtual access to their data. And there can be actually really unique and even very historical and retrospective data sets reaching back to 100 years in time. So you could go and take a look on this virtual access, and if there would be something you could utilize next summer, while many of us will be confined to work from home and are not able to do any field work. So that is an opportunity. I think there is a question in chat, and I will now check that. Let's see. Okay, it's not working. I'll stop sharing for a while so I can see the question. Okay, someone has asked here in the chat that is it up to us to decide whether or not we can conduct our TA, assuming the travel is possible? That is my next point. That is a very good and very important question. And what I am going to do now is that I'm going to show you and share you a slide regarding that. Let me know again if you can see my slide or if you have any difficulty in sharing the screen. Okay, so this slide is about the transnational access visits in spring and summer 2020, because I think the question that was just made was about that what and if the situation is changing in spring and summer 2020, and it would suddenly start seeming to you like you could actually make your visit next summer. So of course, the protection from possible infection and taking care that we are not spreading the virus among you, and we don't put you into danger, and we don't put the stations into danger, and we don't, very importantly, put the local communities that are often in very isolated locations in the danger by allowing physical transnational access. That is our first priority. We want to keep everyone safe. And that is why we have listed these next points here in the slide. So first thing, of course, is to wait with the travel reservations or book the refundable exchangeable tickets. So you can live with the forever changing situation right now, and you can kind of react to the changes, whether they would be positive or negative changes taking place regarding the travel restrictions. Then secondly, it's good to think about this possibility to shift from physical transnational access to remote access, so then you didn't have to worry about the traveling at all, because the station would be collecting the samples for you and they would be sending the samples for you for analysis. And then thirdly, it's very important that you note that it is your responsibility when you are considering traveling and making TA visit in spring and summer 2020, that you have to ensure and find out that there are no travel restrictions from your own home country at the moment when you plan to do the access visit. Secondly, that there are no travel restrictions in the host country, in the country where the station where you plan to do your access visit is located. And thirdly, the station where access is granted is actually open for external visitors. So those 3 points you have to ensure if you have any plans to make your access visit in next summer, in summer 2020. And of course, the fourth point is what the person who made the question asked, whether you feel safe traveling. We are not going to absolutely not force anyone to travel unless you feel it is safe and it is okay. And in that cases, we are prepared that the visits will be postponed in summer 2020. I can see that there are more questions now in the chat, and I will turn into the chat. So, okay, so one is asking, if Interact 2020 is postponed to 2021, will there be a normal Interact TA call open in 2020? We are prepared to open the call for summer 2021 again in August, September. That would be the normal regular call that we always have during this time in the autumn. But I have to say that, of course, we first need to assess the situation, how many projects there would be postponed until spring, summer 2021 before making the final decision of opening the call. So I would say at the moment as an answer that the plan currently is to open the call then. It might be that we are even able to host almost double amount of projects then next summer with the funding, but really everything is changing so fast now that we need to assess the situation carefully in the end of the summer before opening the next call, and then we make the final decision on that. Okay.
Annele, sorry, can I be very rude and just interrupt?
Yes,
sorry.
Absolutely.
Sorry. Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Margareta Johansson and I'm the coordinator for Interact, and I got the great pleasure working with Hannele. So I just had a comment. So we will open, most likely, we will open the call for remote access for sure in the autumn. But then of course, hopefully also for transnational access. So sorry, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And of course, what we are doing also at the same time is that we are really focusing and we're really putting strong emphasis on developing the virtual access to have all the different kinds of modalities covered and developed, even though the situation is what it is. Okay, then the next question, can we postpone our experiments by the end of the summer 2020 if by that time it will be allowed to travel? Yes, that is okay. And we will keep you updated about any decisions we get from the Commission, and then we will keep you updated if any new action plans take valid meanwhile, but at the moment I would say that it is okay to postpone the summer 2020. But please take care that if you book any flights or make any travel arrangements, they are such that they are refundable or exchangeable. Okay, so that no money will be lost. Then the last question here is that, do travel restrictions mean any travel restrictions from the home host country or just restrictions related to the country we are traveling from to? You have to follow your national regulations and you have to follow the regulations of the host country. So that's really, I think, what you have to care about, that from where you are traveling and to where you are traveling, both need to be clear before you can really go anywhere. And of course, if there are national restrictions or restrictions in the host country, you won't be able to travel because they don't allow you to leave the country or they don't allow you to the country where you are heading to. So that's good to know. It's better to be conservative in this case than take too big risks, I think. Someone is asking, if we incurred medical examination costs in 2020 and have to postpone and redo them in 2021, can we request additional funds to cover these costs? Well, somehow I hope that there will be some sort of reimbursement. What comes to the travel cost, for example, and I'm not sure, you have to check from your own insurance if the medical examination costs are covered. It is the first thing to do is to seek reimbursement from your insurance, from your travel insurance and from your travel insurance company. And if not, then please let us know, and then we'll figure out how to compensate the cost from other sources. Then this question here is that how about non-refundable tickets booked before the COVID-19 situation? Some of the stations are very remote, and to make sure that it's possible to get their tickets and travels have to be booked as soon as possible. There are several weeks between the announcement of the TARA research and the COVID-19 situation. Some tickets could not be booked as refundable. Then I think that's a kind of a force majeure, and then I suppose it should be your travel insurance that should cover those tickets. Then secondly, if those bookings have been made to chartered flights, those are arranged by the station. So in that case, you should be in close contact with the station and ask about their the reimbursement policy or the cancellation policy in that case. And then thirdly, if you don't get any compensation, and you can verify you don't get any compensation from your travel insurance or from the flight company who sold you those tickets based on force majeure, and you don't get compensation from the station, or the station's chartered flights somehow cannot be used to compensate the situation, then thirdly, I think you can contact us, and then we'll figure out together how to proceed. And of course, if any of these questions appear to be such that is touching many of you, then we can go through these questions and answers also in the Facebook group. So once we have a solution to this kind of question, or to kind of an action plan how to proceed, then I can place it in a general form to our TA users Facebook page or group, and then everyone can see kind of instruction how to proceed and what to do in these situations. Okay, there is also time in the end of this webinar for additional questions, and thank you for having these questions. It's really good that you are active and you want to know about things, and I'll do my best to clarify to you. I can see there's one more question. We can use as much time as we need on this. Someone is asking, even if it's allowed to travel in summer 2021, can we still postpone for 2021? I think if you have like strong personal reasons that you don't want to travel, of course we can consider that you could postpone until 2021. But I think it's good to now take a little pause and think about things, and think about the possible shift from transnational to remote access, and then follow the situation. And I think we all need to go case by case and consider what's the best possible option in the situation. And if it seems that it's not realistic or it's not safe to do your fieldwork in 2021, then it has to be postponed to in 2020. Then it has to be postponed to 2021. I'm sure that we'll all, once we give it good consideration and we'll discuss about things together, we can make a good and well-informed decision whether to try in 2020 or whether to postpone in 2021. Okay, now I try to go further. Okay, so I think we will now leave this Corona situation for a while. We can get back to it in the end of the webinar. And I will now go through anyhow some practical matters related to the transnational access and the access visits to the stations. So here are the important steps before you make the access visit. So the user groups make their own travel arrangements from their home institution to the station and back. And this applies to everything else except to chartered parts that are arranged by certain stations, including Zuckerberg, Willum Research Station, and New Ålesund. So for these stations, it is the TA users that arrange their travel from home to a certain collection point or to a certain point that is instructed by the station. And then the station is arranging the chartered part for the TA users to their stations. Then secondly, if there is an increase in the cost estimate in the travel budget, or the timing of your visit, if that will be changing, or the length of your visit is planned to change, please contact the station and then please contact us and the TA coordination. Then the third point, it's especially of course important in this point of time, is that you check your insurance coverage, because you need to be insured, of course, and some stations require this search and rescue insurance, the little bit larger or more extensive insurance coverage. And these insurance costs are such that they are not reimbursed by transnational access. They are on your own responsibility, and you need to find funding for that, or your institution has to pay those insurance costs. They are not eligible costs in Interact transnational access. Then it's good to remember when you start preparing for your access visit that you need to start visa arrangements as soon as possible if visa is required by the country where you are going to visit. And the station can provide you invitation letter for the visa application in that case. And then of course you need to check if you need any licenses or any permits to visit or conduct field work at the station. And that licensing or permitting process usually takes time. It easily takes 2 to 3 months. So please start that process as soon as possible. And again, the station can provide you information and support regarding the licensing or permits. Then while you are at the station, and hopefully many of you will already be there as soon as possible, as soon as it's safe, and the rest will be later on. But anyhow, it's good to know what actions you need to remember when you are at the station. So of course you need to follow the station's instructions for safety and field work. And while you are at the station, please also ask for the station's travel claim form. This is important because each station is administrating their own funds for transnational access. So you need to follow their procedures and use their forms and travel claim instructions when you are seeking for travel reimbursement. And you should also keep and store all the receipts of the costs that you are going to claim for travel reimbursement. And in general, when you are at the station, you should not be charged for accommodation and meals at the station for the duration of your stay. There are some exceptions. For example, Abisko, Finse, and Arctic Station, they do not offer or reimburse any meals. So to those 3 stations, you have to buy and pay for your own food and prepare it yourself. Then the second exception is that Fini at Faroe Islands and Cairngorms in Scotland, they do not provide accommodation at station. So if you are planning to visit or do access at those stations, you need to book accommodation from a hotel or bed and breakfast and then pay it, and then they will be reimbursed to you afterwards together with your other travel costs. Then we move to the important steps and things to remember after your access visit. The first is that you need to submit the project summary report, and you do that in InterAccess. And actually it is the group leader who is doing this. So those of you who are attending this webinar and are user group leaders, it is your responsibility to prepare and submit the project report. And you do that in InterAccess system. And then after that, after the project report has been submitted, then you can claim the travel reimbursements from the station. So you use the station's travel claim form, and you send the travel claim and receipts to the address that is instructed by the station. And in case your institution has purchased the flights for you, then your institution will send an invoice to the station about the travel cost. So the personal travel claim has to be prepared and submitted if you have yourself paid for your flights and travel costs. And the third option, the institutional invoice, will happen if your institution has purchased the flights for you ahead of the visit. Then the third point on the list here is that you should provide feedback about transnational access to the EU. There's an online questionnaire for that, and we will provide you the link where to submit your response to this questionnaire. And then fourth thing, once you start getting publications resulting from your transnational access visit and the data that you have collected during your access visit, then what we are hoping for and what the EU is actually requiring is that you would acknowledge InterAct transnational access and the support from the EU Horizon 2020 in your publications. And we will provide you a model sentence how to do that, and we will also provide you our grant number to refer to in your acknowledgement. I think there was again a question in the chat. I try to see if I find it from here. Okay, someone is asking from Katarina, but this is actually Hannele. I just look like Katarina on the screen because I'm hosting this meeting through the InterAct general account under the Work Package 1, our main coordination. But who is speaking here is Hannele Savela, your transnational access coordinator from InterAct. Anyhow, so let's see the question. We do have to ask the travel refund to each research station. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's what you have to do, that you have to prepare a separate travel claim to all stations that you are visiting, because each and every one of the stations has their own separate funds for transnational access. So that's how the procedure is going. And it's also good to recognize that the travel costs are reimbursed after the visit. So transnational access is working in such a manner that the costs are reimbursed based on direct variable costs. So you first make your travel arrangements and you either pay them yourselves or your institution is paying them or purchasing the flights and the travel tickets to you. And then you get reimbursement from the station after you have done your access visit. Okay, I just wanted to say next couple of words about remote access. And the first point here is something that I already mentioned to you a couple of times. And it's a question if your project could be shifted from transnational access to remote access in 2020. That would ensure that your study is done already this summer, and it shouldn't necessarily need to be postponed to summer 2021. So something just to think about and consider. You don't need to decide this right away, but it's good to ponder, and in case you feel like there's potential in remote access for your study, then you can contact the station and also CC the message to me or Heli in TA coordination. So for remote access projects, some of you have already been granted remote access to the station. So if you have such remote access study, then before the access is conducted, is that contact the station manager to go through your research plan and the practical arrangements that are required, the access to or the study to be done together. And if there are any modifications or any specifications needed, you can talk about those together. Then you of course also have to be aware of if any permits are needed, and if yes, then you should send any additional information or instructions to the stations and prepare the permit application together with the station manager. Then during the remote access study, it works so that the user group, you, will not physically visit the station, but the station staff will collect the samples and do the monitoring for you. And of course, everything should be done according to your research plan and in collaboration with you remotely. And then after the remote access study, the data or the samples will be sent to you by the station, and the logistic and shipping costs of the samples or data will be reimbursed up to the granted amount to you or to the station if the station has directly paid those costs. And the project reporting and all the reimbursement procedures follow the regular transnational access projects. Some words about the project report. So this is really easy actually to do, and it should not take very much of your time. So you do that project report in InterAccess. The user group leader is doing it. And how you do it is that you set your project to reporting status in InterAccess. There is a button in the end of your project application for that. You just click the button and that will open the reporting form for you. It's a ready-made template. And the deadline to submit the report is 8 weeks after the transnational access visit, or once the remote access is completed. And what kind of questions are you asked to answer in the project report template is that some basic project information, you can take that from your project summary from the application, information on the users who used the access, then the objectives you had for the fieldwork or for the remote access, what was done during the access visit, the main achievements and difficulties. And then we also ask you to submit some feedback related to the visit. It is structured feedback form, so you can just tick the box, give stars to different aspects of your transnational access experience. And the last point is the important one, that you have to recognize and know that your travel costs will be reimbursed only after your project report is submitted. So it's a necessity to do that report before and submit it so that the station can see it before they proceed with your travel reimbursement. This slide is about claiming the travel reimbursements. So you fill in the travel claim form from the station. And then you collect also the receipts of the costs, and you send those to the station contact within 8 weeks from your visit. The latest once you have submitted the project report. And of course, like I said already, if your institution has paid your travel costs, they will prepare an invoice and send it to the station. And it's your responsibility to find out the information required from the invoice and instruct your financial administrators how to prepare the invoice and where to send it. And the travel cost will be reimbursed after you have submitted the project report. And we have eligible costs. Those means costs that we will be reimbursed. And then of course there are non-eligible cost items that will not be reimbursed because then the EU is not compensating those costs. And we have lists for both eligible costs and non-eligible costs. I'm not going to go through those in details, but you can find them from these materials and also from the information booklet that we are going to send to you a little bit closer to the field season start. So here is the eligible costs, and they will be reimbursed to you to the maximum granted amount if needed. So we are prepared and we have budgeted to reimburse you costs up to the granted amount. And those costs that can be reimbursed should be eligible costs that are listed here. Then there are non-eligible costs, and those costs are in no instances we will not reimburse those costs because they are then furthermore not compensated by the European Commission. So here you can see some examples, or the examples which costs are not eligible and will not be reimbursed. One thing I would like you to notice from this list is that meals and food purchases during the journey to and back from the station are not reimbursed. So this is good to know. So meals costs en route to the station and back are under your own funding. We do not reimburse those. And then secondly, the costs of health, life and luggage insurance are not reimbursed. So you and your institution are responsible of your insurance coverage and the costs related to that. There was a question again in the chat. I will try to see if I can hear. Okay, the question is, someone now I think already also has their microphone on. Can you please turn your microphone off unless you have a question to make? I can hear an echo now. I hope it's not disturbing you from hearing. Okay, so the question is, what exchange rate will you be using for the reimbursements? The day that the purchase was made or the day that the credit card bill was paid? It has to be the date when the purchase was made. That's usually the exchange rate that we have been instructed to use. Because that is the cost that can be verified from the receipt. Okay? And then this slide is about the feedback about your transnational access to the European Commission. So you can fill in the user questionnaire, and here is the link to it. You will receive it together with the materials of this webinar. And the user group leader should fill in this questionnaire. It could be easily done at the time, for example, when you submit the project summary report. And when you submit or when you fill in the user questionnaire, please remember to provide your project acronym. That's very important for the Commission so that they know who has submitted the feedback and to which project it's related. And then mention Interact, our project name, and the grant agreement number that you can see here. This grant number is for Interact 2. And if it ends up that we are shifting projects or transferring projects from Interact 2 to Interact 3, then we will of course let you know the correct grant agreement number for Interact 3. And here is information about the publications that are resulting from transnational access. I'm sure many of you will have many excellent publications, and it's really important that you let the world know about your results of your research. So the European Commission is expecting that the user groups publish their results within reasonable time in a suitable, preferably open access scientific publications. And please mention the transnational access provided by Interact to you in the acknowledgements of your publications. And you can do it by using this following sentence. The research leading to these results has received transnational access from the European Union's Horizon 2020 project, Interact, under grant agreement number 730938. And in addition, it's important that you let us know about your publications resulting from transnational access. And you can do it by reporting your publications in Interaccess. There is in the menu toolbar in Interaccess, there is a folder called Publications, and you simply click that and you enter the publication information there: author, year, title, journal, volume, type of publication, and then you submit. So that way we can store all the information about the publications in one place, and we are then able to report those in the statistics that we provide to the Commission about Interact transnational access. And I already thank you in advance for doing that. Once you get publications, it's really important for us to show and demonstrate the impact and the scientific legacy from Interact transnational access to the European Commission, who's been very generous in funding us and supporting the science community to do work at the Arctic stations. There was again a question in the chat. Let's take that now. Okay, a comment from a station manager, and a very good comment indeed. A station manager comments, remember please also to acknowledge and inform the stations themselves as well as the EU. That's a good point. And of course also we from the TA coordination do our best to let the stations know about the publications derived from transnational access to their station. And of course the stations, it's also good for you to know as station managers that you can see all the project applications and all the project reports to your station, and you are then also allowed to see the publications of those projects in Interaccess. So you can also go and check from Interaccess the publications that have been made and submitted to the system resulting from transnational access to your station. Okay, it's important to go through these things so information is flowing and everyone is on the same page. Thanks for the question. Okay, then we are going to the last slides of my presentation, and this is about the TA user community, our community of all the TA user groups, all you as individual persons, as scientists, the station managers, and us here in the TA coordination and in the all work packages of Interact. So what kind of activities we have? We are arranging physical meetings back to back with big scientific congresses and meetings. We are arranging webinars, and then we have the Facebook group. That is the private group for the TA users and station contacts. And why I have now highlighted this TA user Facebook group in red is that I think that is now our most important communication channel in this crisis situation, in this very unpredictable and fast changing situation regarding coronavirus. So I will use that channel to try and answer your questions as soon as possible. You can imagine we are really, overflowing with emails at the moment, and this kind of fast changes and fast new action plans is really putting quite a lot of work and stress on us here at the TA coordination as well, and in Interact in general. We are doing our best to respond to all of your questions, but really the easiest and fastest way to communicate all the changes and the latest information is through this Facebook group, because then by one answer I can reach all of you and everyone will get the information as fast and as efficiently as possible. So thanks for following the Facebook group. Then the second point is an idea that I actually got last night. Now that we are increasingly arranging webinars instead of physical meetings in these special circumstances, I was wondering whether we could start arranging webinars, for example, every other week. And you could be always attending the webinar whenever is a good time for you and when you can make it to the webinar. And you could book a time to present your TA project or your research in the webinar. It would be really interesting to learn from each other what we are doing and perhaps exchanging some ideas how to cope in the situation. Or search for different opportunities if some stations would be presenting their facilities and possibilities. We could discuss about remote access and virtual access developments and so on. So my plan is to share a doodle poll with you very soon, probably by the end of this week or early next week. And you can book a time when you would like to present your project, a 30-minute slot in these online webinars arranged every other week. And then we could get started in April with these webinars. Our TA user community meeting on 30th of March would be the kick-off, the start of this webinar series. And then we would continue twice every month meeting each other in a webinar, in a shared meeting room there in the Zoom environment, and present your projects and ideas there. And then of course we have the virtual access for which we have this virtual access single entry point where you can find the data and metadata descriptions and what kind of data is available freely for access from the stations. So you could consider, you could take a look at it and consider whether something that you could use for your research. And we have made a decision that we now advance the development of virtual access in Interact under these circumstances. And we currently have 18 partners offering virtual access, and our plan is now to, as fast as possible, extend to 33 partners. That is the amount of partners that are planning to offer virtual access in Interact 3 by the end of 2023. So we are now planning to advance that and also develop this virtual access single entry point as fast as possible so that it would benefit you in your research as soon as efficiently as possible. Then we have the Interact Arctic research blocks, and we are, even though the field season might not end up being exactly as it usually is, we are seeking for bloggers in 2020. It's very interesting to the general public to learn about science and of course learn about fieldwork, but also learn about how to cope in a situation like this. What's the response of the science community under this very challenging time? So we are welcoming and looking bloggers for 2020 as well. If you're interested, please let me know. And then of course we have the TA ambassadors taking spreading good word about transnational access and its opportunities. These TA ambassadors are our TA users who we have recruited to help us in promotion of transnational access. And we are of course already seeking new ambassadors, more ambassadors for 2020 and 2021. I will also send an email about this and announce this search on our Facebook group. But if you are interested, start thinking about it and let me know. And this is just about our TA user community meeting, the information. You have the same information on our Facebook group, and you're welcome to join. Join to learn about the legacy of Interact 2, to hear showcases about research stations, TA user groups and station managers forum, and also to hear what the future holds for us about the ambition and plans in Interact 3 from 2020 to 2023. Okay, now I could ask if anyone has more questions at this stage. You could just open your microphone and ask, or you can type in your question in the chat. We have about 10 minutes time for any questions that you have. If not, we could proceed with these questions I have prepared here. And if there are any that I have not yet touched upon in my presentation previously, we could go through those questions and answers now. It says here, this is from some older slides, so don't care about those dates so much, but the question is that, is it okay to modify the dates of our planned TA visit from what was stated in the application? It is okay to modify. You just need to contact the station and then CC us at the TA coordination about the changes. And of course, the changes are absolutely going to take place now when we have this coronavirus situation going on. It's just the most important thing is to keep everyone informed, keep the station informed and keep us at the TA coordination informed, and everything else can always be discussed and agreed on. There was a question I'm trying to find. Okay, someone is asking, we received less time and funds than requested. Can we use the funds to cover cost of only 2 of the originally 3 proposed team members? And if yes, can these 2 members stay longer if the station manager agrees? I think this kind of modification can be done if you are sure that you are able to do the planned study with less amount of people. And if it's okay to the station manager that these 2 people are staying longer than the 3 people would have stayed. So what is important is the overall framework, that you have been granted a certain amount of days and certain amount of travel cost. So if you stay within those limits, you stay within the granted amount of days, more or less, or you stay within the granted amount of travel costs, more or less. We will come into that very soon. So then it is okay to make such small changes, okay? Someone is asking, if we postpone our fieldwork to 2021, is it then possible to change group leader? Good question. Unfortunately, that is not possible, because the access is granted partially based on the merits of the group leader and the CV of the group leader and the research plan made by the group leader. So unfortunately, team member can be replaced, but not the group leader. Here, the second question here is, could we change some members of the group for the visit on station? And the answer is yes, group members can be changed, but not group leader. In case you plan to replace a team member, please contact the station so that they know about the replacement, and then contact us in the TA coordination, because we need to make an eligibility check to ensure that this new team member, this replacement member, is eligible for the transnational access to the station where you have been granted access. So it is possible, but please first contact us. Okay, the question here, how does the TA funding work? Do we have to pay flight tickets beforehand and we will be refunded after the travel? Or is the travel money transferred to us in advance? The answer is the same as I already told you, that you have to pay the flights and tickets beforehand and you will get reimbursed after the transnational access visit based on the actual direct costs. That's how the access visits are working. Then there was a question. There is a question regarding this TA user group leadership. If the group leader changes affiliation, different university in a different country, if the fieldwork is postponed to 2021, will that affect the grant or fund reimbursement? No, it won't affect. It's okay to change affiliation. But also in that case, you need to notify us and change your information on the Interaccess user account. You can do that. You can modify your information, your affiliation information in Interaccess. So please do that so that we know. The only problem might arise if you, for example, if you had been granted access to Finnish research station while you have been working and residing in another country than Finland. But then, meanwhile, you would change your work and residency to Finland. So in that case, you would not be anymore eligible for access in Finland. So you need to check anyhow and verify that these eligibility conditions have not changed. But in majority of the cases, changing affiliation will not be a problem. Okay, here is a question in the middle that I would like to go through with you. It's about the travel reimbursements. Is the TA user group leader preparing one cost claim for all group members, or should everyone prepare their own travel claim independently, all the team members? And the answer is everyone, all team members who will use the access, prepare their own travel claim to each station by using station's own form. And if your institution has purchased the travel, they send an invoice to the station. So each team member who has been traveling for transnational access will prepare their own travel claim. Then the last question on this slide is something that is asked quite often. What if the actual travel costs of the visit extend or stay below the granted amount? The answer is usually a small extension. If you exceed the granted travel budget slightly, or the amount of days granted slightly, let's say by 1 or 2 days, extra days, not exceeding the 90 days rules, because that is the absolute maximum that will be compensated, or your costs do not exceed more than, let's say, 10% of the budget, that is okay. But it's always good to ask and notify the station and notify us in the TA coordination, especially if you expect that the exceeding of the budget would be bigger than 10%. If less is used, that is not a problem. Okay, then contact. In questions related to transnational or remote or virtual access, regarding budget, reporting, publications, you are always welcome to contact us, and we are here to support and help you the best we can. You are really important to us. And the primary contact is Heli Niittynen. She is our TA project planner, and you can see her email here. Heli has recently started with Interact Transnational Access, and she is now our primary contact for these everyday practical matters. Then the secondary contact is me, Hannele Savela, and I'm the TA coordinator, and I'm now mainly focusing a little bit more on development aspects of TA, but I'm also always here to provide support and help. So primary contact Heli and secondary contact me. In questions related to work at the station, logistics, permits, licensing, timing, travel reimbursement, payment, and so, please contact the station manager in question. And you can always CC Heli in the message so that then we are updated at the same time. And we can react if needed. And our aim is really to make your transnational access experience as safe and successful as possible. And I can see there's again a question. And let's see if I can find it. If postponed to 2021 and the affiliation of team members change, do the affiliation have to be university. Perhaps a team member takes a non-university based job. There is at least a category among the TA users that it's a company. So I think it is possible that the team member could be from not from a higher education institution. There is like a university is one category in the statistics that we report to the European Commission, and then there is this kind of educational institution, research institution, and then there is this third sector and business life or company, a private company, and then I think other. So I think it is okay. And then a good question, where do we find the station manager's name and email address? I now stop sharing my screen and I will show you where you can find all the station manager information, okay? Just a second. I will go to the Interact website and then again start sharing my screen so that I can show you. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen again. And this is the front page of Interact website. There you can see the link to our Arctic research blogs, and then you can see the link to the field sites. That's all stations, very detailed information about the station. And then there on the upper left-hand corner, there is accessing the Arctic, and here is all the information related to transnational access. So there are two places actually where you can find the station contact, because you have been already granted access. So you can always go to this place, info to user groups. And now that I have that open, you can see for each station, who should you contact and their email address. So this is a good place to find out all the, how to proceed and who to contact, and if there are any special permits or forms that you should fill in before your TA visit. So please first all visit this place, info to user groups. Here, info to user groups. Visit that and you find all the necessary station contacts. The second point where you find all the station contacts is this infrastructures. This is listing all the stations offering transnational access, remote access and virtual access in Interact. There are 53 stations at the moment. And this table contains the link to the station description, field site description. It has the station manager contact. If you click it, it opens the email ready for you. And it has the transnational access contact. It can be the same or another person. And if you click that, then it opens the email address to this contact person, primary contact person for transnational access. Okay, and now there was a question again. Okay, I can't. Doesn't seem to have it. Okay, I stop sharing my screen and then we'll see if I can find the question that was made here. Okay, it's just that many thank yous from different people. Okay, that's also nice. Nice to have these nice comments. Okay, are there any further questions you would have before we close the webinar? Please, you are welcome to unmute your microphone and ask, or you can still submit questions from the chat. Okay, unless there are additional questions, it's time to close the webinar, and thanks ever so much for participating. If any further question or concern come into your mind, please type them to the Facebook group, and I'll be following that and answering your questions as soon as possible. And this webinar recording will be available this afternoon as well. Thanks, and stay safe, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.